All right, Irena Sendler. Again, maybe we will finish today. I don't know. This is a little longer than I thought. So I'm going to jump right into the reading and try not to talk too much about what's going on, but there will be some Polish names. I'm not even going to pretend to pronounce them. I'll probably just pronounce the first names because the last names are really tough. I was watching something on Irena Sendler. I think it's probably a little too boring for us to watch and hear, but apparently she went by many names, many different names. So I don't know if it's because that she was trying to hide her identity. That could be one part, but also I think Polish people sometimes have several different names. I know a couple of my friends like very different names, like not even close. So I don't know, but some of these names are really tough, and so maybe that's why there are different names because some of them are just so long. The proper names. So let me share this with you, and I will get to reading, and we will try to finish this up today. In the fall of 1942, two Polish women. So by now, this is 3 years since the Nazis invaded. Zofia and Wanda founded Zagoda, the Council for Aid to Jews in occupied Poland, a branch of the Polish underground. The members of Zagoda asked Irena to head the children's department. She readily agreed. And you can see this is a quote from her. I lost no time in reflecting on the danger, she later explained, knowing that I and my heart had to be there, had to be part of the rescue. With the assistance of other social workers, as many as 25 at a time, Irena began rescuing the children of the ghetto. By that time, she was an administrator in the welfare department, taking advantage of both her official position and the Germans' paranoia. So, excuse me, paranoia is the noun, paranoid is the adjective describing somebody of germs. She would go into the ghetto under the ruse, so under the trick, I guess we might say, of wanting to stop the spread of disease beyond the ghetto walls. Officially, she was examining Jews for signs of contagious diseases. In reality, she was looking for children to save. At first, Irena and her helpers took orphans living on the streets of the ghetto. Later, she would meet with parents and ask them to let her take their children out. So, one real quick thing at the beginning, just something else that I read. I don't think it was in this article, so I want to mention it. At the beginning, like there were so many children that had to be rescued. There was not in Irena's mind. She always wanted to help the most desperate, but there were some people in her group that wanted to help, like kind of prominent Polish Jews. So, like doctors and things like that, like upper class. But she was always going for orphans first, widowed mothers second, to help those children. But so it wasn't unanimous in the people that she should help. All right, back to this. At first, Irena and her helpers took. Where do you read? We already read that, right? Irena always made it clear to the families, convents and orphanages. That is where nuns live, convents. Who took in children, that these children were to be returned to their families after the war. She kept her detailed list for this reason, so that families could be reunited. There were two common routes used to smuggle the children out: through two buildings that straddled the border between the ghetto and the rest of Warsaw. One building was an old courthouse, the other was a church. Children old enough to be taught some basic Catholic prayers would be sneaked into the church from the Jewish side. Once inside, they would remove their yellow stars and take on their new identities as Polish Catholic children. They would exit through the front door of the church, which was guarded by Nazi soldiers who questioned them when they came out. The Nazis used various tricks to try to catch Jews escaping this way. Irena and her helpers trained the children well. They were never caught coming out of the church with Jewish children. Younger children could not be rescued through the buildings. Instead, Irena would place them in gunny sacks or toolboxes and carry them out of the ghetto, or she would hide them under potatoes in a cart. Once she took a child out concealed in a coffin. On other occasions, she was able to legally take seriously ill children out of the ghetto in an ambulance. At other times, the ambulance was used to conceal healthy children. She had the assistance of the ambulance driver and of a dog. When the children would start to whimper, she feared detection. She would hit the dog on his paw, and he would begin to bark. This set off a chain reaction among the Nazi dogs, and chaos would erupt. At that point, the Nazis would let her pass. So, poor dog getting hit on the paw, but I'm sure if you asked that dog, the dog would be okay with it because they're like, hey, we're saving children, so you can hit me as much as you want. Not sure if that's true. Hopefully it's true. Hopefully it's a good dog. Once on the other side, she would take the children to the home of her friends. You can see that family there, where children would change their clothing and have a chance to eat and rest after their dangerous journey. It was also at the Pedroyski home that Irena would secretly bury her list of names under an apple tree in their backyard. The Petrowskis lived across the street from a German barrack. Oftentimes, the children would also stay by another friend named Maria until they could be safely moved to what would be their home for the remainder of the war. The people who helped Irena, 24 women and 1 man, all took tremendous risks. There were even 10 who alternated entering the ghetto with her, but it was Irena herself who entered the ghetto day after day for 18 months and walked out each time with a child. Her life was in constant danger. Ultimately, the Nazis began to suspect her. She changed her address numerous times, but continued her work. Her careful list making almost betrayed her. The names of the saved children I wrote down on thin tissue paper. There were 2 identical lists in 2 bottles. Recalled, oh, there you go. I wanted to see a caption. I'm like, who is this? What is going on here? I was hoping that maybe it would be one of the students in Kansas, but I don't know if they actually met. So, recalled Irena. When I once had the list at home, the same night the Gestapo arrived, fortunately, one of my liaison girls demonstrated her presence of mind and hid the list in her underwear. After that, for safety reasons, I never kept the list at home. Tragically, I know this is one that some students have been waiting for, like, hey, what happened to Irena once the Nazis captured her? So you can find this on paragraphs 22, 23. Tragically, Irena was arrested by the Germans on October 20th, 1943, 5 months after the destruction of the Warsaw Ghetto. Her address had been revealed by an informer. And we talked about this. And this, luckily, we don't live in this atmosphere right now. But when the Nazis were in control, I would like to highlight that. When the Nazis were in control, people would be scared and trying to save their own lives. A lot of people were turning other people in. So luckily we just don't have that mindset right now. We're very much at ease. I think most people are. But if we had a police, I think I have to sneeze again. If we had a police force that was kind of tyrannical, excuse me, it might be a different story where, if you suspect your neighbor of something just to get the heat off of you, you might try to turn people in. That happened all the time. So it's something we probably can't comprehend. Like, why would you turn somebody in? But it's a different time. It's hard to really comprehend. So her name was given. I mean, she was guilty of it, right? Her name was given to the Nazis, and this is what happened. Paragraph 23. Irena was tortured and beaten for several days. 1 leg and a foot were fractured. She refused to reveal the whereabouts of the children or the names of anyone in the resistance. She was scheduled to be executed, but members of the Zagota found out, bribed a guard to instead leave her in the woods, where they found and rescued her. Her name was printed on public lists of those who had been shot by the Gestapo, and she spent the rest of the war in hiding. So if you remember from the video we watched, it seemed like Zagota, and remember, that's that secret kind of network trying to help people who are Jewish. They paid the equivalent of $100,000 to get her out. So Times were tight. I don't know where they got that money, but you can imagine the guards were more than willing. Like, okay, for this amount of money, we'll do that. All right, back to this. Almost done. Yeah, almost done. Not too much longer. I'll try to. I thought we might have to split this up into 2 days, but let's just get it done today, okay? After the war, she worked to track down the children and reunite them with relatives, but nearly all of them were by then orphans. Copies were made of the lists and given to officers of Zgoda who helped Irena search, but few relatives were ever found. Only 1% of the Jews of the Warsaw Ghetto survived the war, which is insane, right? Like out of the 400 or so thousand people, 1% survived. Super tragic. About 4,000, right? Not good at math. I think that's it. The communists in Poland branded Irena subversive for her work with Zgoda. Remember, subversive is somebody trying to undermine, trying to bring down the government. And she was largely unknown and unappreciated, except amongst the survivors themselves. The children kept in touch with her over the years. Many, including Elizabetha, considered her a mother figure and would visit her regularly. It was Irena to whom they would turn when they needed the advice or simply the love of a parent. They were instrumental in having her recognized by Yad Vashem twice. We talked about Yad Vashem, and that is the organization that recognizes the survivors of the Holocaust. In Israel, I believe. She was given the distinction of righteous Gentile. I'm wondering, does anybody know what a Gentile is? I'll pause right here. A Gentile is just someone who is not Jewish. So that's what people who are Jewish call non-Jews, Gentiles. All right, back to this. A tree was planted in her honor in 1983. Irena traveled to Israel for the tree planting, where she reunited with some of the children she'd saved and enjoyed a visit to an elementary school in Tel Aviv. She even learned some Hebrew in preparation for the trip, but was so emotional that she relied on a translator in the end. Irena had also received support from the Jewish Foundation for the Righteous in New York City. Irena would have likely remained unknown to most of the world if not for the students from Kansas. After winning the state history competition in early 2000, they began to perform the play in communities and schools around Kansas. Media began to pick up the story of this female Schindler. Uniontown proclaimed an Irena Sendler Day, and other towns followed suit. One thing that, I know this is going on a little long, but we'll finish today. One thing that we haven't talked about yet is like History Day. And I'm sure, I don't know, we used to do it in the school, but since the pandemic, it kind of hasn't happened. But it's almost like a spelling bee, but teams compete first at the state level, and they will just bring awareness to something in history. Like, you know, these girls did a skit about Irena Sendler, but it could be a couple other things. Maybe they make a film, but it's where they will compete at the state level first and then go to Washington, D.C. And ultimately one history project will be chosen like the winner for that year, much like a spelling bee. So that's what was going on there. All right, I know this is getting long, but it's really too short to do like another full day. So as much as my allergies, let's go. Sorry about all the sniffing. It was around this time that two very significant things happened, both for them and Irena. They found out not only that Irena was alive and had a right to her, you know, she probably wasn't on the internet. They also found a university student fluent in Polish who agreed to translate Irena's letters to them. Probably no Google Translate back then. Then in January 2001, they performed a play in Kansas City where a local businessman suggested that they should meet Irena. And they said that they were planning it and saving money. He asked them, how old is she now? When they answered that she was already 91, he used his contacts to raise the money in just one day for the students and their teacher, Norman Conrad, to fly to Poland and meet Irena. Norman's wife and several student parents joined the trip. In Poland, the students visited Irena, performed the play, and met with government officials. National and international media covered their visit, breaking nearly 60 years of silence. That first visit took place in May 2001. Since then, Holocaust education in Poland has changed dramatically. Other Polish rescuers came forward with their stories, Students have made 5 trips to Poland, meeting with Irena each time and performing for schools and community organizations, thanks in large part to their efforts to spread the word about Irena's work. Irena was given numerous awards, including the Order of the White Eagle, Poland's highest honor. In 2003, she won the Jan Karski Award for Valor and Courage, having been nominated by the students and Norman Conrad and by Stephanie Seltzer, president of the World Federation of Jewish Survivors of the Holocaust. 2007, she was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. In 2009, the Audrey Hepburn Foundation posthumously awarded Irena Sendler its 2009 Humanitarian Award. And as we spoke about, well, you hopefully know, posthumously, right? After death, she, unfortunately, according to Siri and Jenna, she died in 2008, unfortunately. But at a ripe old age, right? How old was she? Was she almost 100? She was definitely in her 90s. And she seemed like she was very healthy until the end. So that's good. All right, bigger. Almost done here. Look at, we're so close to being done. I know, probably listening to me read for 16 minutes probably isn't great. But hey, let's do it. Yet, it was not for her own sake that Irena was so pleased with the recognition. Rather, it was the fact that the work of the Zygota was finally being recognized. And even more, for the way in which hearing about the Zygota had changed Polish perceptions of their own history. By giving Poles a hero, the students have made it possible to discuss both the good and the evil of those years. Irena's story, the play, and some of the 4,000 pages of primary source material collected by the students about Irena are being used in schools and colleges in Poland and America. I always worry about using America for the United States. Just one thing, we're going on long enough, right? But think about it. America is Canada, Mexico, it's Brazil. So it's a weird country name that we live in, the United States of America. A lot of people just shorten it to America, but America is really North, Central, South America. So I always try to say the United States, but you do you. Say what you want, but I wouldn't write it in an article here. All right, let's make sure we're almost done. Almost done. So close. Hey, and maybe you are actually filling out your Google form. Maybe you'll be done by the end of today. America. And for the past 6 years, the Irena Sendler Award has been encouraging and awarding project aimed at teaching tolerance. Each year, an outstanding teacher in America and in Poland are chosen. I've not yet been chosen. I'm waiting for my day. Early on, Irena had written to them, "My emotion is being shadowed by the fact that my coworkers have all passed on, and these honors fall to me. I can't find words to thank you. For my own country and the world to know of the bravery of the rescuers. Before the day you had written Life in a Jar," remember that's their play, "the world did not know our story. Your performance and work is continuing the effort I started over 50 years ago." Irena's last words to the students on May 3rd, 2008 were, "You've changed Poland, and you've changed the United States. You've changed the world. I love you very much." Irena passed away on May 12th, 2008, and was interned, just a fancy verb to say like buried, in Warsaw's Pulaski Cemetery, a place reserved for the elite among Polish artists, writers, scholars, and war heroes. Visitors to Life in a Jar's website report that they're among the actresses, Nobel laureates, and other heroes. The grave with the most candles is Irena's. All right. Woo. 20 minutes. But, and I'm sorry, man, my allergies are screaming today. So hopefully that helps. We're done with that. Probably could complete the Google form. Maybe tomorrow we'll start a little Vesuvius, a little Pompeii. I don't know. I don't know about the study guide. Maybe we should have one for Pompeii, but I'm thinking we're so close to the end. Maybe not. I don't know. It would be a good extra grade and an easy grade. So that's why I'm thinking, because of testing, we're a little short on grades for the fourth quarter. So I might do a study guide. Sorry, I think it will help. There are some words in there that are tough, but not too bad. Study guide, quiz, and a Google form for Vesuvius. And it's looking like, I mean, with everything coming up, Vesuvius will probably be our last like big unit of like three days or 4 days or whatever. So maybe a couple mini units, maybe a little poem here, and then a little. The Bosnian genocide, though, it's so tough to do in just like a day. It's just so complicated because you have Yugoslavia breaking up and a lot of different religions go. Well, mostly just Islam and Christianity. But yeah, okay, enough. 20 minutes. See ya.